Good afternoon, guys. It's Working, bringing you a very quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollar. This is the 4-hour chart on Coinbase. And last time we spoke, guys, Bitcoin was just sitting at the bottom of this zone here, this little wedge that we created. I told you guys if price did end up breaking down, excuse me, guys. If price did end up breaking down, we're going to be watching this lower zone at 3,600. Price did end up breaking down here, came back up for a retest. What was support acted as resistance. Right here we can see that's a rather bearish sign. Came back down and is finding support now just below. We broke briefly below that 3,600 point, came back up and is just finding support right about at 3,600 as we speak. Now this little wick here is fine. We can have wicks breaking through here all day long, but if we get a body closing below this 3,600, in other words, if we get a 4-hour candle that both opens and closes below 3,600, a decisive break, I do think we're very quickly going to fall down into this 3,400 to 3,250 dollar zone just below here. This is not a very strong support between 34 and 32.50. Doesn't mean that it's going to break. Just means that I'd be watching this very closely. As soon as 3,600 does break decisively with that breakdown, guys, $3,000 becomes a very, very real possibility, guys. So I'm going to be watching very closely. I'm not going to be entering any heavy positions at all. We are flirting with the prior lows here. In fact, if I zoom out here and we look at the weekly chart, let me just bring it up here so you guys can see a little better. Looking at the weekly chart, guys, we can see that we are coming down, obviously flirting with the prior lows here, but we're also flirting with this, or we're also hitting what was a prior support area all the way back in September of 2017, October 2017. So this is a very logical place to be finding support. That being said, if that does break, you can see that there's not much support between that 3,600 and $3,000 range. Now, if we zoom in here more on the 4-hour chart, you can see that there is some. We can come back here and we can see that there is a little bit of support there at that 3,400 range, but it's not very much at all. So that's why I say, guys, if we do break below 3,600, the possibility of coming down to that $3,000 Bitcoin gets very, very, very real. Not that it wasn't real before, but yeah, if we create a new low here, especially if this low right here, we created a low. The low was about 34.58, at least on Coinbase. If that is taken out and we create a lower low, guys, again, so if we do hit that 3,400 zone, again, we're very quickly more than likely going to be falling down to that $3,000 area. Now, again, I mean by more than a wick. If we just come down and touch it with a wick, we can do that all day long. But I'm looking for a decisive break on the 4-hour chart. In other words, that 4-hour candle opening and closing below that 3,600. Things are going to get very bearish very quick. Looking to the upside, there is always the possibility that this is just a bear trap, trying to trap people into short positions. In fact, if we come over and we look at short positions, they're continuing to stack, almost approaching that all-time high range. We're not there yet, guys, but we are getting there. And longs, pardon me, longs are staying fairly stagnant, not much at all. So, yes, is there a possibility of a short squeeze? Absolutely, no question about that, guys. There's a real possibility of a short squeeze, and so we're going to be watching that very closely. And this would be a logical area, possibly wicking below here, maybe even touching this prior low, and then getting a nice reversal right back around, guys. That's a real possibility. But right now, that is the only hope that we have of this thing turning around and going on any kind of a at least a temporary bull run. Things you're going to be watching, as we always say, guys. We need to keep an eye on volume. Volume sitting at about about 5.7 billion on the day, still relatively low. A little bit of an uptick compared to the last couple days, but still relatively low overall, still ripe for manipulation. And we know market makers can basically do whatever they would like to do with this market. We know they want to buy Bitcoin at a lower price. We also know that shorts are stacked and they could make some money by liquidating those shorts by driving price right back up. That being said, we know that the traders that are left in this market are very wise. In other words, if they do end up bringing price right back up, very likely there's a good chance that either they're not going to liquidate, either those short positions are holding their stop losses very high and they'd have to bring price up higher than they're willing to, or short positions are going to get liquidated very, very quickly. In other words, they're going to get out very quickly and start looking, or get out very quickly as soon as this thing turns right back around. Get out very quickly, and then market makers are not going to have the nearly the profit as if they would if they were to hold their positions all the way up and liquidate up here somewhere. So we know that retail is getting much wiser, which means the game is kind of changing. So again, we're going to have to kind of watch and wait and see how this plays out. That being said, we do know that price is going down, and short positions continue to stack here, even in the face of price going down, which means that yes, there is that possibility of that short squeeze, but given that which means everybody believes this market is going to go down. Basically, there's no bullish indication at all in this market. And that is oftentimes a good sign that we are going to get a short squeeze. But again, guys, that being said, I would not bet on it. All signs right now, other than those shorts, that short spread between longs and shorts, all signs right now point to price going much, much lower. So where am I looking to add to my position? Now we're looking at the day chart, guys. Daily chart. Where am I looking to add to my position? I'm going to be adding a little bit here between 34 and 32.50 if it does break down into this area. This is where I'll add just a little bit of my long position right here, and I will add a much more, going much heavier down between that $3,000 to $2,500 area. Now that may not be the bottom. That 3,000 to 2,500, but that is where the probability tells me that is going to more than, if we do get down there, and this is a big if, but if we do get down to that $3,000, $2,500 area, that is the area that would be a very likely bottom, guys, a very, very likely bottom. Again, doesn't mean it can't go lower than that. Certainly it can, but I will feel very comfortable taking in a fairly heavy position laddered in between 3,000 and 2,500. I'll feel very comfortable doing that. Will I go all in at that point? Absolutely not. Will not go all in at that point. I've showed you guys in the past that there is a possibility that we may be even coming down to that $1,200 zone. I don't think it's a probability, but it is a possibility. And if that does happen, that'd be an absolute bottom in my opinion. And I would go in with 95% of the fiat I have available to buy Bitcoin at that level. I would still keep about 5% waiting for a trend change, but I'd be very comfortable going in. But between 3,000 and 2,500 is where I would be looking to add a very heavy position if it does get down there. And again, guys, I'm not saying it's going to, not trying to spread any FUD, just saying that's a very real possibility. Keeping an eye on longs and short positions and keeping an eye on volume is going to be your best bet as far as trying to figure out where the bottom is and if and when we have seen a bottom. All right, switching over and looking at EOS very, very quickly. EOS is basically just following Bitcoin, only to a greater degree. In other words, when Bitcoin drops, EOS drops exponentially greater. We did break below, obviously, this $2.70 support. Price came back down, found support at our $2.45 support area, bounced off that area, came back up, tested what was support, acted as resistance, and then crashed right back down. Had a nice support area right here that sits, pardon me, guys, that sits at about 210. 211, and it's finding support right on there right now. Obviously, if Bitcoin drops, EOS is going to drop along with it. As of right now, guys, all signs are pointing to this possibly coming down to this $1.85 to $1.72 area, and I would feel very comfortable going in heavy with EOS if it does get down here. Now, again, not with all my fiat, but I'd be very comfortable taking about of the fiat I have set aside to buy EOS, taking about 50% of that fiat and deploying it right here laddered between $1.85 and $1.72. Can it go lower than that? Yes. It absolutely can. Is this a logical bottom for a turnaround? Yes, it also is. So again, being very, very careful and realizing that EOS, even though in my opinion, and some people disagree, even though in my opinion this is a very strong altcoin, very strong fundamentals, I do believe in the project greatly. Some people would disagree, and you're free to, but it is still an altcoin at this point. The EOS is just an altcoin at this point. I believe it's one of the ones that are going to survive this bear market, unlike many others, but it is just an altcoin. So really all eyes, in my opinion, a little bit of fiat into altcoins, but I'd be looking more at Bitcoin at this point, trying to figure out where that bottom is and not analyzing altcoins for the most part. That being said, I'm watching this $1.85 area very closely. I'm going to start to get a little more bullish if we can break back above this 245 zone. Until that does happen, guys, the bears are just in full control. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things there. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.